relationship there. You know what I mean? Like,
Listen, every time that I look around and I see these two people, it's him being quiet and she yelling and yelling
yeah,
and
she
yelling.
doesn't have no patience.
But the way she constantly yells at him, I wouldn't even treat a dog.
Welcome back after a long absence. Angela Deem is wife and is key to the American dream. So Michael Ealy's Sammy's desire of becoming an American citizen appeared like a far-off prospect. Michael's existence was characterized by humiliation, confinement, and dependency. The road to Michael's citizenship was difficult, and the journey that started with hope and love eventually turned into a power struggle that left him marginalized and dehumanized. Angela, a brash and domineering figure in his life, wielded her power over him with a heavy hand, making it clear that his identity as a Nigerian man gave him no place in the life she envisioned in America. Michael was not only financially dependent on Angelo, but also emotionally and psychologically. Having left behind everything he knew in Nigeria, he trusted Angela with his future, thinking that love would bridge their cultural divide and geographical separation. However, what he experienced in America was not at all what he had imagined. Angela, who had earlier expressed her desire to be his companion and mentor in this unfamiliar world, ended up being his jailer. Her declarations of love evolved into demands for dominance, and she took advantage of his dependence at every opportunity. Being Angela's spouse in America was like walking on eggshells for Michael because she watched every move he made and laughed at everything he said. She would throw things at him during arguments, words and objects alike, reminding him of his status as an outsider with no rights in her world and stripping him of his dignity. Her temper was erratic, and Michael was frequently on the receiving end of her outbursts, forcing him to apologize for just being in a place where he was made to feel like an intruder. Angela's abuse extended beyond their private exchanges. She would publicly humiliate him, making him feel tiny and unimportant. Her friends and family would frequently observe in silence, while she berated them for their tacit support of her behavior. After years of enduring Angela's abuse and manipulation, Michael finally achieved what he had long yearned for: American citizenship. This monumental achievement wasn't just a legal status, it was the key to his freedom. A victim of love and survival in a foreign land, Michael endured the humiliation in the hopes that one day things would change. However, as the years passed, it became evident that Angela had no intention of letting go of her grip on him. The more dependent he became, the more she enjoyed her role as his boss rather than his wife. The guy who had been constrained and imprisoned for so long was now free to explore opportunities that had previously been out of reach for Angela. This was a devastating blow because Michael could now emerge from under Angela's oppressive shadow and start to regain his life. Although they were no longer together, she had always considered herself to be the gatekeeper of Michael's life in America because she was in charge of his finances, decisions, and, ultimately, him. The idea that Michael would no longer be dependent on her was unbearable, and she became enraged when she discovered that Michael was now free to live in America without her interference. Angela's rage stemmed from more than just losing control. It also came from realizing that Michael had evolved into an independent person she had never thought he would be. For years, she had treated Michael like a subordinate because of his Nigerian heritage, but now that he was officially an American citizen, he was entitled to all the rights and benefits that came with that. The dynamic between them had shifted irreversibly, and Angela was left grappling with the reality that she could no longer dictate Michael's life as Michael stepped into his new life. As an American citizen, the possibilities before him were endless. He was no longer the man who had to ask for permission to pursue his dreams. He was free to work, to travel, to live life on his own terms. The limitations that Angela had imposed on him for so long were lifted, and with them the last vestiges of her control over him. For the first time in years, Michael could see a future that wasn't clouded by Angela's overbearing presence. But Michael's journey to freedom wasn't just about legal status, it was about reclaiming his identity and his dignity. He had spent years being told that he was less than, that he had no place in America. Without Angela's permission, now he could finally stand tall, knowing that he had earned his place through perseverance and resilience the abuse he had endured had shaped. him, but it hadn't broken him. Instead, it had made him stronger, more determined to build a life where he was in control predictably. Angela reacted angrily to Michael's newfound independence. She couldn't believe that the guy she had worked so hard to stifle could now stand on his own. Her attempts to weaken him and make him feel dependent on her had failed. As Michael reflected on his years with Angela, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness for the love that had once existed between them, and relief that he had finally escaped a relationship that had done more harm than good. Michael was no longer the timid, dependent husband she had once known. He was now a man with his own voice, his own path, and the legal standing to back it up. In the days that followed his citizenship ceremony, Michael started making plans for his future. He was free to explore new opportunities to build a life that reflected who he truly was for the first time in years. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of possibility, a sense of freedom that he had almost forgotten was possible. The man who had arrived in America full of hope and love had been tested in ways he never imagined, but he had emerged stronger, ready to embrace a future where he was in control of his own destiny. Angela, on the other hand, was left to deal with the reality of her own actions. Her attempts to exert control over Michael had failed miserably because she had underestimated him and believed he would always be dependent on her, never being able to stand on his own. However, Michael had shown her that he was stronger than she had ever given him credit for, demonstrating his ability to overcome manipulation and abuse and take control of his own life from the outset of their relationship. As the guardian of Michael Ilisami's dreams, Angela Deem understood her power as an American citizen and used it as a weapon against Michael. What began as a romance between two people from different worlds swiftly turned into a struggle for dominance, as Angela did all in her power to keep Michael under her control. One of her most powerful weapons was her ability to sway Michael's path toward becoming an American citizen, which he had always seen as the path to a better life. Despite her early assurances that she would support him, Angela's fear of losing control over Michael drove her relentless efforts to keep him from realizing his dream of becoming an American citizen. Over time, Angela's actions revealed a darker agenda. She never really wanted Michael to become an independent citizen because the idea of him having the same rights and privileges as any other American threatened the very basis of the power dynamic she had established during their turbulent relationship. Michael was the outsider, the Nigerian man who was fortunate to have her in her eyes, and Angela made it obvious that she was in command. She was the American. She enjoyed the idea of being the one making decisions and holding the keys to Michael's future in America, and her reliance on him was what maintained the equilibrium in their relationship. Allowing him to become a citizen would mean giving up that control, something Angela was never ready to do. She used a variety of overt and covert tactics to try to prevent Michael from becoming an American, including bringing up the subject frequently during their arguments and using it as an opportunity to manipulate and denigrate him. She would also remind him repeatedly that she was the one who held the final say over his fate, serving as a check on him to ensure he understood that any mistake could result in her withdrawing her support for his citizenship application. Beyond merely speaking, Angela actively worked to obstruct and complicate Michael's naturalization process. She would, when it came time for interviews with immigration officials, Angela would sabotage the process by being difficult and uncooperative. She knew that any sign of discord in their relationship could be used as a reason to deny Michael's application, and she played this card ruthlessly. Her behavior during these interviews was erratic, and she frequently created scenes that cast doubt on the legitimacy of their marriage. Her goal was clear: to ensure that Michael remained in a state of neither full participation in her world nor freedom to leave it. Angela's jealousy was a major factor in her attempts to prevent Michael from obtaining citizenship. She believed that after he became an American citizen, he would no longer require her, the power she had over him would diminish, and she would lose control of their relationship. As a result, she began to take increasingly drastic measures to prevent Michael from accomplishing his goal, accusing him of having hidden agendas and raising doubts about whether he was with her for the green card alone, or out of love. As the years passed, Angela's tactics became more aggressive, and she openly threatened to withdraw her support for Michael's application if he didn't comply. She would also dangle the prospect of citizenship in front of him, only to snatch it away whenever she felt her control slipping. These mind games took a toll on Michael, who found himself constantly walking on eggshells, uncertain whether his dream of becoming an American would ever be realized. While Angela maintained the facade of a loving wife who wanted the best for her husband, her true intentions were clear. She never wanted Michael to become an American citizen because she knew that he would gain the power and freedom she had long denied him. Michael and Angela's story is one of a man who refused to be broken by the circumstances that sought to confine him. Angela's obsession with control blinded her to the fact that her actions were pushing Michael further away and sowing the seeds of resentment and mistrust that would eventually lead to the unraveling of their relationship. In the end, Michael's story is one of triumph over adversity of a man who fought for his freedom and won. His journey wasn't easy, and the scars of his past with Angela would remain with him, but they would no longer define him as an American citizen. His journey to citizenship was more than just a legal battle. It was a battle for his soul, for his right to live as a free man. As he stepped into his new life free from the shackles of dependency, he knew that he was finally where he belonged. Thank you for watching. Now that he was free from the abuse and control that had previously held him back, Michael could live the life he had always dreamed of. As he went forward, he did so knowing that he had earned his place in the world. Not as Angela's husband, but as a man in his own right, prepared to face whatever lay ahead.